You're watching and listening to SitM Podcast. This is a platform for entrepreneurs, innovators, move makers of African descent, where you hear stories, ideas, and experiences on how we can break barriers, how we can break the mold. This particular episode is sponsored by our online store, so please visit SitMPodcast.com, shop SitM Podcast merch. That's how we are able to drive this machine. We appreciate every single one of you who rock that SitM Podcast merch. We appreciate y'all. Also, we have partnered with Perfect Office Solution that provide office space for entrepreneurs in the DMV area in over 7 locations. So hit them up, let them know we sent you. You get 10% off if you use promo code SITM Podcast. So hit up Perfect Office Solution, let them know we sent you. I'm excited for this podcast today, man. I got a special guest in the building. It has been a long time coming. My guest today is the co-founder of IO Spaces, a co-working space located here in the DMV area in Silver Spring, Maryland. He is an innovative person, and he is a mentor to many. Listen, I got a genius in the building. I got Leslie Tita in the building. I don't know if I've done justice to introduce you, but welcome, bro. This has been a long time coming, man.
Thank you, Reflex. It's definitely been 2 years now. We've been talking about this, so I'm excited to be here today.
When AK hit me up a couple of weeks ago, he was like, "Yo, Leslie is pulling up." At first, you were supposed to come tomorrow, and then we had to push it today because you got something big happening tomorrow. But I want to start here, right? I found an article dating back to 2014 titled "Some Thoughts on IO Spaces Co-working" that outlined this idea of what you have today as IO Spaces, and which Rebecca, your co-founder, eventually signed up on. Mm-hmm. Why did you think that was needed, and how did you test that idea that we now know as IO Spaces?
So I think at the very basis, IO Spaces goes way back to like 2011. When I started my very first company, and at the time it was a online platform to help connect both universities and students together back in Africa. And it was pretty cool. Like I worked with some really cool individuals, Lawrence Nara, Quincy Quende, William Tako, and a deceased friend of mine, I forgot his name.
Rest in peace.
Rest in peace. And we started this platform to really just help connect universities and students. And so the challenge we had while we started that was there was no space to go to connect with other entrepreneurs, because I mean, as a founder, also co-founder, one of the biggest challenges you have is connecting with other people who are like-minded, or going to a place or meeting with other people who are like-minded. So at the time, all we had was just the internet, right? So fast forward 4 years later, when I moved to the DMV, and by the way, that company failed. So it was a huge failure.
Yeah, that was in Cameroon.
It was here.
Wow.
So I was in college in Columbus, Ohio, when I started that company, and I actually dropped out to do the company full time.
Wow.
The whole entrepreneur dream, right? Drop out of college and do this thing full time.
Your parents saying you school, you drop. I said, I'm going to start a business.
Yeah. My mom was not. She was not a fan of that. She was not. She was like, you need to go back.
Yeah.
But that's what I wanted to do, and so IO Spaces was born out of the need to find a space to help facilitate the growth of other entrepreneurs in the area, and so that's kind of like how the idea got started.
What exactly is IO Spaces? Like what we know today. It's a co-working space. We know that, but what exactly is IO Spaces? For somebody who might otherwise not be familiar.
So IO Spaces is an innovation space. IO Spaces provides a variety of services. The very first one is workspace. So companies, individuals that need a collaborative space to come just network, get work done, we provide that. So unlike traditional office space where you rent an office and you pay X amount of dollars a month to get access to that office, with ours you pay a membership fee and you have access to a different level of varieties of services, and where office space is just one of them, right? So you have that, you have business services, you have programming for entrepreneurs that help them grow, you have events. I know I'll be talking a little bit about something we have coming up tomorrow. So as an entrepreneur, once you enter into the IO Spaces field, you pretty much get every service that you need to grow as a business, as an individual as well. So IO stands for input output. So it's you put in.
I never knew that.
Yeah. So 1 and 0. the binary number of every memory in the computer. So 1-0 input output. The idea is you bring in, you take out, or you take out and you bring in. And that has been the concept of the ISP service.
So 2011, you start this co-working thing with your friends.
2014.
The one which failed.
Yes. Pause. 2011.
So it failed. Why did you venture to go back in that same field to say I'm gonna do it again, another co-working space? Like,
so the very first one was not a co-working space. It was an online platform. It was like Blackboard.
Gotcha.
So the very same we have Blackboard out there. So it was a Blackboard type of software online to help universities grow. I think with that one of the things we missed was universities in Africa do not necessarily have a budget for. They have budgets for IT services, but they don't necessarily have a budget for that type of service. So we're building something without verifying whether our customers were ready to pay for it. And so it was an interesting service. All the students loved it. The professors loved it. But we faced a couple of issues. One, universities were not ready to pay for it. Two, professors looked at it as a way of cutting the way they make money. Because a lot of times they'll print out these manuals and then they would sell each one to each student for a fee. And what our platform did was make all of that digitized online. And so there was no need to have to, we're kind of like not, they saw it as a way of taking away revenue from them, but we actually saw it as a way of now you can only not sell this manual to your students in this specific university, but to universities across the world. So why we got back, again, as an entrepreneur, you try things, sometimes you fail.
Yeah.
Failure is inevitable, but I took 1 year sabbatical to just rethink exactly what I wanted to do.
Who is, like Leslie, for, people who might be unfamiliar, or even people who know who Leslie is, it's always good to like get to know you, connect with you on a different level. Who is Leslie, if you were to put it in words?
Leslie is a Cameroonian, born from Bagante. My mom is from Bagante. Hi, Mom, if you're watching this. I don't think she is watching this. But shout out to her. My dad is from Bali, lives in Boston. Leslie is a designer by trade. I went to school for design, interactive media design for what, that's kind of what I learned. I love basketball, played basketball all my life in high school. Went to Sacred Heart. Shout out to all the Chessons out there. if you're watching this, I know there's a lot of haters out there, but shout out to all the Chessons out there.
Yeah, the toughest clique out here, man. I can't even hate on it. I can't even hate on the Sessions clique, man. I tried, but nah.
So yeah, it's yeah. So that's, I would say, yeah, big fan of everything to do with innovation. I'm always constantly thinking about ways to make simple things just more enjoyable.
With the idea, I've always been curious with the idea of IO spaces, and the will to start it. Where did you go from there? You had everything on paper. You said, "Man, I'm diving back into this industry." Where did you go from there?
Where did I go from the idea stage to actually making it happen?
Making it happen, yeah.
So I used to work for an individual who owned a property in downtown Silver Spring, and he would not. He literally just wanted to rent out the space, right, to different people. And so the idea I proposed to him was like, hey, you could do this in a way that you make more money than just what you do. And the idea would be to just, instead of giving it as a basic space, how about you do some renovations? How about you do some additions to the space? There's this trend coming up where it's called Coworking. You could create something like that where they would pay you a fee and have access to all these amenities, right? So he was like, all right, I'm interested. Let me know what it would entail. So I go ahead and I create this whole business plan, brand identity, the whole nine, and tell him, hey, this is it. All I want from you is just give me like 20% of. I just want 20% of the business, because he was spending in. He's going to put in the space. He's going to put in equity and money to start it. And so he took it, looked at it, and funny enough, I used to work for him as a system engineer. So he took the idea and actually tried to do it by himself.
What?
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah. And when that didn't work, he came back to me and said, okay, how about this? I'll give you the space.
He came back to you.
Yeah. And said, I'll give you the space at a smaller fee and just pay me the rent and you can do what you want to do with it. So at that point, I had to get investors to help pay for what I would have to pay as terms of, because rent is one equation, but they have everything else to build out, furniture, services, software, all of that would have to be paid for. So at that point, I reached out to one of my closest business partners, Rebecca, and said, hey, this is the idea. I think it's a big need. It's a growing need. We're having, because Silver Spring at the time, this is 4 years ago. It's not what it is now.
Right.
I mean, it was getting there.
Right.
And I'm like, downtown Silver Spring is about to become the space for immigrants and Africans, whether they're partying, they're living, or they're doing business. This is the place we have to be. So we bet it now, we would be in a better position to capitalize on this later. So she jumped on board, and together we made it happen.
What's the importance of having a co-founder or collaborating in that sense? Could you have done it yourself, and what does Rebecca bring to this that otherwise you couldn't have been able to?
She brings a level of feedback that I wouldn't necessarily get from somebody else. So the challenge with a lot of business owners is that they're very crazy in their minds, and so you have these dreams of creating this huge, I don't know, company, and in reality is all of it is steps, right? And so when you have a co-founder who's done this multiple times, or who has done it in a way, they can give you feedback on some of those plans that you don't need, and they're like, hey, this is good, but we don't have the money to do this, whereas in your mind is, we can do this anyway. So your co-founder kind of brings in expertise that you do not necessarily have. So if you're a good business person, you probably want to bring in a creative. If you're a good accountant, you probably want to bring in a good designer. And so, yeah, you kind of want to complement each other. If you are the person who in your mind you dream, you want to bring in somebody who is a realist, and they're like, okay, your dreams are good, but we don't have this in the bank account to make this happen. Right. So that is kind of what a co-founder brings. What
exact services, because it's known as a co-working space. What exact services does IO Spaces offer?
I would sum it into a group of three. So the very first one is a workspace. So workspace for people to get work done. So we provide services from 12-day access to the space. So so the space we're in right now is a 3-floor building, and our members can come in there and work. Essentially, they can grab any desk, pretty much like a cool coffee shop. Right, you're not necessarily enclosed into a private space. You have an open space concept to what we call it as the loft, to get work done in any desk you want. So that's one. We provide co-working desks. The second one is conference rooms. So you want to meet with a client, you're trying to meet with someone, you want to have a meeting, you can book one of our conference rooms to have that meeting. The third is virtual mail. So same thing, you want to get mail for your business, you want to have a prime location, because we're right on Georgia Avenue, and so that's really a prime address for business. So that's a service that people want to have, and also people want to receive mail not in their home but in a business address. That's something that we provide. And then we also provide event space, which is one of the biggest things that we also do as well. So because we have a lot of different spaces out throughout the building, clients and members are able to book the spaces to do private events in the space.
I would personally say you are killing it as an entrepreneur out here. You are. I would, looking from outside, you are successful. How are you able to do it? Does it ever get hard? Does it get frustrating? How do you manage those times?
So one question. I think they say the connection is going in and out.
Yeah.
Let me see, but we should be fine. Let me do this. So the question is, it looks like I'm successful.
I would personally, that's just my personal take, but I'm just saying as an entrepreneur, what I'm saying, just speaking personally, and also just giving advice for entrepreneurs out there who might, be in a tough time. How does it ever get hard, and how are you able to manage those times?
One it gets hard on a monthly basis. The thing is, there are different kinds of businesses that exist. One of them is depending kind of business, sometimes you may not have a monthly due, right? So if you are a perfectly online business, you just have maybe one or two staff. Like your biggest bill is maybe your web service or your server, right? If you are a physical company and you have, say you're a restaurant, right? Every single month you have to pay people, whether you make money or not, right? So in that case, the biggest challenge is making sure that whether you make money or not, every single month you're due a certain amount of expenses you have to cover. Certain months are much easier than others because there are a lot of events happening. But the hardest times is when you sit down, you tell yourself, all right, I'm making this amount of money now. How do I go from making X amount to 10 times that? Because one of my biggest worries is, and this is something that happens in the DMV, you see someone who's really successful, that looks successful, right? And they're doing really well, and everyone is like, it could be a promoter, it could be a business owner, and they're doing well, and then in the next 5 years they start going down. And it's because they get comfortable. That's my impression, and that scares me. It keeps me awake because I'm like, I don't want to get comfortable. I don't want to get to that stage where they're like, okay, you think you got it, and then you start missing out on those little opportunities that made you who you are. So constantly I'm really, really always trying to reinvent myself or reinvent the company, focusing on the areas that give more money, and then also trying to find services or ways to be innovative that keeps us on the edge. So make sure that at every single time you're thinking about us, every time you're thinking about anything innovative in Africa and the DC region, IE Spaces comes to mind.
Speaking of African and innovative, and being reinventing, how much percent of your membership actually comes from advertisement, and how much comes from like referrals and things like that?
So we haven't advertised. It's funny enough, we haven't advertised in. We haven't advertised in November, October?
This was October, yes. Yeah,
so
October.
we moved into this new location last year in this same time. It's been 1 year since we moved into a new location, and we moved into a new location, and we have not run any advertising campaign. And I think about it, we haven't done any like Facebook advertising and say, hey, there's a new location, come. Like we don't actively do that, because we for the past 3 years that we've been around, it was constantly advertising. And I look at advertising a little differently. There is the obvious advertising, Facebook advertising, social media. The way we do advertising is a little different. We do events, and by doing events, we bring in people that are most likely to become our next client, right? Versus blasting out to 100 million people online, hoping that one person clicks your ad and gives you information.
Right.
We put an event, put the same amount towards an event, and people visit the space, they experience the space firsthand. And next thing you know, they're hitting you up and say, hey, I was at this event, I want to do my own event. Or I came to visit a member and I want to do my own member. So traditionally, our biggest clients are from word of mouth. People just that come to the space, check it out. Our biggest clients are from SEO. People searching for co-working space or event space in downtown Silver Spring. We are ranked first. We're probably the top first when it comes to like event space and co-working space in downtown Silver Spring. We're like number one.
It's remarkable. I think that I think I also saw this on your website that 60% are females. I just read some recently on Forbes that the fastest growing demographic of entrepreneurs is Black females. Why do you think the trend is leaning that way, as far as like entrepreneurs being females, Black females, African females specifically? So
I may be definitely be the wrong person to ask. Like,
I mean, you ain't Iraq, you meet them, you know a lot.
I know, but it's one of those things where what I've seen is the very same issue I raised early on. You're having more and more Black women say they're tired of whatever they're in, the situation they're in. So they're doing well, and they're like, okay, I want to do something new. Black women are more willing to take risk than, from what I've seen, than your average black man. So when I look at all the events we have done, like the high paid events, it would take me averagely, say, 6 to 14 days to convince a client that's a male to join or buy a service. With the women, they're more willing to come look at it and make a decision, yes or no, much quickly. They take risk and they go for it. Two, there's been a leveling field in terms of like access, right? Predominantly in the past, a lot more men, because of the system that existed, had access to all the different things. Now the internet has made it in a way where it's a leveling field. Anyone can have access to this information, can have access to starting a business, but black women are still very, 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 very far back in terms of like raising capital. And I do believe the number is 1% of venture capital in the US goes to black women. So yes, they're growing, but I want to see black women raising $15-20 million in funding for their companies. We want to start seeing that more and more. We want to see black women going IPO, right? Raising money, leading a 5,000 person company, going IPO, raising billions of dollars. And I do believe the way the trend is going, we're going to get there. It's still very slow because of, institutional funds, but it's really great to see what's happening.
I said in the beginning that, this has been a long time coming. You sitting here, we got a lot of time. I know we've been talking a lot about IO spaces, and we got some interesting stuff to get into. But I want to keep honing in on this business, IO spaces and entrepreneurship. And this is a question I've always been wanting to get your input on. What do you think is the biggest issue that startups face, especially African entrepreneurs in the diaspora?
The biggest issue or biggest issues?
Biggest issue or issues?
Biggest issues that I would say.
Like, for example, you mentioned women having not being able to raise enough money and go IPO.
Access, well, a couple of things, and I think the trends affects more black companies than any other. Access to capital is a huge one. Access to small capital. Let's not even say access to capital, because you think access to capital is $1 million. We started IO Spaces with 15,000, and I know people get married for $15,000 or $20,000.
$20,000 wedding in DMV.
DMV
that's that's nothing.
No, I just saw one 2 weeks ago. Shout out to the Asongs.
Yep.
I was like, is this good? But $15,000 got us started. We were able to find a dope space, pay for it, and get things going. So access to capital is a real issue. So if I didn't have access to capital, I wouldn't be able to start my company. That's one. Two, access to talent. A lot of black companies, a lot of founders have a hard time finding a co-founder. Or finding a co-founder is going to be there, right? Who's going to be there, who's understanding how they work, who's going to be present for them, who's going to just let them do what they have to do, or in the reverse, play, give feedback when they need to. So you see a lot of companies, it's a one-person show, and a lot of investors,
they don't like that.
Yeah, investing in a one-person show, because it shows that you're not able to bring people together, which is not necessarily true. It's just that the pool of entrepreneurs is not that huge as well. I mean, Africans or African Americans in the US, we're 11% of us. So it's not like we're not a lot, but it's hard to find talent or find other people who are willing to come along the ride with you. Everybody is trying to start your own thing. There's nothing wrong with it, but you end up looking at a pool of generalists versus a generalist and a specialist. So, two, finding talent would definitely be a huge one. Three would be, I think, more better now, but socially and culturally, a lot of families are very risk adverse. So even if you want to start your company with your family or your mother, or your father, or your girlfriend, or whoever you're with, is reminding you that they don't see you paying for that $20,000 with your job or with your new company, that could be a huge deterrent. So a lot of times people have ideas, they want to get into business, but socially or culturally, or the support system you have does not favor that kind of growth. And also for real reasons, like we don't have the kind of residual income or generational wealth that other communities have. So if when you're starting a business, your dad will not tell you, hey, this is $20,000 to go start a business.
Nah, he's telling you go to school, be a doctor, be a lawyer.
They'll rather do that. But at the same thing, I don't think education or formal education is for everybody. At the same way, entrepreneurship is not for everybody.
Right.
But I think we have to be, as a society, as a community, we have to be supportive of everyone's choice.
Yeah, you said that people use diversity in tech as a buzzword, but in IO space is actually a thing. In what capacity?
So when you walk into IO spaces on a regular basis, you meet all races represented. This is not even without trying. So from Latinos to Black people to white people to do we have any Asians in the house? I think we do. We've had to African Americans. We have a good representation of different communities within the space, and I think the reason that is we don't try too hard to push for. We don't have like token people in certain places. I think we created the company as a welcoming place for everyone. So you walk in, regardless of where you come from, regardless of your background, you feel welcome. Whether you're white or you're Black or you're Asian, like you feel welcome in the space. And so that energy translates into having more and more people in the space. That being said, diversity is a buzzword that a lot of corporates use, but in reality, when you look at the boards, for example, you look at the board of a good example was WeWork, right? Up until 2-3 weeks ago, all the board members were white male in the space, and people like no representation.
White women or even or Black.
The thing about diversity, and the reason diversity matters, is that it lets you think different than what you typically are. If you have a group of men, just think about it, a group of African men deciding the fate of a product. We have a way of thinking. That's how we grew up. But now, unfortunately, your product is used by not only African men, but by African women and not African women. So it's very important that in the design process, you have people in that space that are part of the design process.
Right.
Same thing goes to board of companies. If the board is only male, white male, they make a lot of decisions, which is unconscious bias towards that side. So it's really important to have a very broad, diverse board, because you bring in new ideas that you wouldn't have thought about if you didn't have that person in that space. Yeah.
Speaking of diversity and growth, you mentioned earlier something that IO Spaces got into now and is killing it, which is event organization. From Made in Africa experience to Coming to America Festival to Made in Cameroon Music Festival. I want to start with Made in Cameroon Music Festival. She's like, I'm sitting up for this one. I want to start with Made in Cameroon Music Festival before we get into the other ones, which was, I believe 2017 or 2018.
2018. Yeah. 2019, right? Yeah, last year.
Made in Cameroon Music Festival. First, what? Let's start with the good before we get into the not so good. Yeah. What went right in that event in your view? Made in Cameroon Music Festival.
All the performance, all the main acts came through. They performed. They had a good time. The feedback from the audience and the people who came to that event, where everyone was like, "Look, I think I read one online that said." She said, typically when I go for Cameroonian events, it always huge promises but under delivers. And for the first time, ever since I've been in the US, I go to an event and I'm proud to be Cameroonian. And I read it, I was like, whoa. For the artists to perform, that was the first time we've had that many acts Cameroonian-wise in the same space in history. Never been done before. We've had one or two acts here and there. The first place that the venue is not a basketball court, right? In Takoma Park.
Yeah.
The first time where
club or
the first time where the branding and everything was in line with what we see on other communities. And so it's really like, look, we've been in this country for a long time. It's just fair that we get something that's on par with the other concerts we go to. And it was a great time. It was amazing to see the performances. It was amazing to see the opening acts perform. It was amazing to see the reaction of the audience, like being there and watching this, like people that most of them have never seen, like because they're born here and they've all listened to their music,
right?
And they have the opportunity to see them live performing the tracks live. It was just a beautiful event.
We had not locals, Mr. Leo in the building, Stanley and Magasco and Minx. How Little Birdie told me that you with me, Kimbo, Detox, Mr. Banks, Maniac.
Yep.
A bunch of acts in the building.
Yeah.
I have fun.
Yeah.
A Little Birdie though told me that you came into that project like in the later parts of it, at the actual date of the event. How did you get involved with that project? Because you weren't like on the board per se from the jump.
So
and you actually, from what I would say, saved the event.
Yes. So the event was being the idea, from what I know, was done by a lady called Ibanga Jang. Mm-hmm. So Ibanga was the visionary behind the Made in Cameroon festival. And so we got connected 3 weeks to the event by an individual called Gildas. Mm-hmm. So Gildas says, "Hey, I want to connect you with somebody who's doing something in the Cameroonian space. I think you guys can connect, right?" And before that, we had just done a press conference for Malox. So Malox was doing a show here. Mm-hmm. And we hosted him in IO Spaces. And through that, we're like, hey, let's meet. I met with Ibanga and I told Ibanga, hey, this is what we do. We can help you. We can help you with a level of marketing. Like, we'll help you with marketing, press conference, just like the marketing, giving it an audience in this region. And she was like, all right, sure. What would it take? I'm like, at the time, we didn't even ask for money. It was a contract to just do to help host the artist, and market the event. We didn't ask for. I wasn't, because our space was not. At the time, we didn't do events. We don't do events. Mm-hmm. We're an innovation space, and I was about to go for a serious ride. So this is 3 weeks to the event. Yeah. Well, 4 weeks to the event, and so for the next week, we do a whole rebranding of the whole thing, right? So we do the whole. We change everything. Flyers, everything. Visuals, the website. We create a website. We do like the whole nine.
For free?
Yeah. The cost of it came down to $20,000.
The whole event?
No, that's just the marketing.
Yeah. Wow.
Marketing. So building the website, bringing on board different marketing partners. We brought Voice of America. We brought in BET. We brought in different media channels to come cover the event. We hired a production crew to produce the event. This was from marketing standpoint. This was really for us. And 1 week after, we were like, okay, hey, we've done all these things. What's the status of this? We need drops from the artists to be able to do more marketing. Right. And at that time, Ibanga tells us let's say I'm about to cancel this thing. What? She's like, I'm about to cancel the Made in Cameroon. And I'm like, wait. I put my company name on this thing. What do you mean about to cancel? Like, what is actually going on? And she very honestly said in a way, and this is a huge thing with events, it's like it costs a lot of money to put together events. Right. And for an event like that, her budget was like $40,000, which she had to pay. So from ticket flights to to artists to the space, to lodging, to food, to transportation for 7 days.
$40,000
for 10 people and their crew. And this is on the low end. And she's like, I want to cancel this thing. And I'm like, I know how to fail, but I don't plan to fail this time. And so I tell her to give me some time to think about exactly how we would shut it down, because this is going to cancel. Again, this is our idea. This is not our idea. So this is week 3. So 3 weeks to the event, she was ready to cancel it. I said, okay, just give me 1 minute. I'm going to go speak to a couple of friends and see how, because I really engaged everybody. And so I go and I speak to Lean, Frank, Lionel, TP. I need to call the names because all of them made this thing happen. Claude, Brice, a bunch of people who were involved in Cameroon community, and say, all right, this is the plan. This is what's happening. This lady wants to cancel because unfortunately she wasn't able to raise the $40,000 that we're supposed to go into building this thing. You guys understand that if we have to do this thing, it's going to be our money. And there's no promise that we're going to make money back.
With BET, Voice of America, everybody lined
Everyone's
up.
coming. So had we canceled, it was going to be bad on us. Because remember, like, we're in Silver Spring, right? So next thing you know, if I was supposed to invite you to something, you'd be like, nah, I'm not going to come. So everyone, we brought on board an investor. We spoke to an investor, Lionel, in Cameroon, and said, this is the deal. So at the time, the tickets from the artists were not paid yet. So they had their visas, but they didn't have their tickets. And they didn't have
3
their
weeks to the
hotels.
event.
Yeah. So this is 2 weeks.
2 weeks to the
Remember,
event.
1 week we're speaking to different people. So 1 week, 2 weeks to the event, we hit up and say, okay, this is what we're going to do. I'm going to take the risk and I'm going to invest my time and my money and my connections to making this happen. But in return, I'm going to ask you to give me 100% everything on the Made in Cameroon. We asked for 5 years. So that next year, if we have to do it again, we'll do it again.
It's your business, man.
We will,
5 years.
because I need to get my money
Right,
back.
yeah.
So we went back and forth, and then we then agreed to a term that was comfortable for her. We're like, all right, cool, let's go ahead and do that. So at that point now, everything Made in Cameroon was on me, on IE Spaces to put together. And then we came on board. Then partners, Frank, Lionel, Claude, and the other Lionel joined. And 2 weeks to the thing, we're like, all right, we're agreeing to do this thing. Now tell us everything that we need to do that has not been done, that we need to do 2 weeks to the event. And so that's when we realized that we had just signed a death contract. Because we didn't exactly know how bad things were. And I was like, I started, have you ever had a panic attack where you're like, like you start trembling because like it's different if you're doing something. If you have to organize, get me office space, I get you office space. But this is like an event, and there was a buzz across the whole DC region because DC is like Cameroon Central. Yeah. So people were ready, people traveled, and I'm like, we signed this contract, and now we're doing the due diligence. That's when she lets us know of all the things that have to be done, and we'll put the map together, and we're like, just the first initial thing to do cost $10,000. So to get tickets for all the artists to leave from Cameroon to the US, you have to, even before even knowing if you're going to make money. At the time, we had sold 30 tickets.
Wait, hold a time out. At that time, this
3
is 2 weeks to the
weeks
event.
We had sold
30 tickets.
Yeah. So when we started doing our marketing, we went up to maybe 100 tickets. So we doubled it in a week. So remember, this event has been promoted for 6 months. For 6 months, they sold 30 tickets. In 1 week, we sold another 30 tickets. But it was remaining 2 more weeks to the event. Then now we had to worry about selling tickets and then taking care of the artist and then taking care of the opening acts, because it looks like
because people like me gotta eat too. You know, people like me got managers who's like, nah, you gotta get fed too.
Yeah. So 2 weeks to the event, we decided to come on board. We signed all the paperwork. And then
speaking of Mike,
I'm thinking about it. It's stressing me out. Look, and so, and then we tell the investor, Frank and Lionel, and Lean tell the investor, all right, we need you to come on board and do this part. And then they do it. We got all the tickets for the artist. And then we're like, when the artists come on board, when they reach here, we're going to have an honest conversation with them and say, hey, whatever was promised to you, we're not able to deliver those things. We can cancel right now, or we can go ahead and promise you that we're going to do our best to do the best show. And whatever comes from it, we'll promise you guys to give you at least 25% of the whole revenue that we make from it. So it means it could be $5,000 or it could be $20,000. But that's kind of like the discussion we had internally.
Yeah.
So with them, we spoke to them and said, all right, this is the thing. The challenge was whatever we were telling them, other parties were not telling them the same thing. So
like everybody was telling something else, and
I don't know who was telling them what, but they didn't understand that we were not the sponsors of the show. We didn't put in money no. We came in to serve a show so they could at least perform.
Right.
And they were hoping that we could make our money back, and then if there's some more money, we could give them back. Because it was not about making profit there. They didn't understand that. And the reason we couldn't have a conversation with them was because it's a conversation that could make them say, you know what, fuck this, I'm going back to Cameroon. And we're like, all right, we're going to make sure that whatever you have, if you need a good hotel, we took care of them for the duration of 7 days that they got here.
That's not easy.
But the team was, because it wasn't a one person effort. We were probably 20 of us, every day working meeting and stuff. I never
grow a whole beard and hair that you've never had.
Oh yeah, I remember that. I never met with the artists. I met with them while they were here. I met with them twice. Once when there was an issue that something happened, so I had to go there to their hotel and meet with them. And then twice was at the event. Because I didn't want to be in that space. Because these guys, the energy around them is it's a lot. Mm-hmm. And so within that space, you cannot think. So I had to stay at the office, and I was constantly writing things down and making sure that, we're ready for that. So we went from 20 tickets to about 800 tickets sold in the space of 1 week.
3 weeks.
1 week.
1 week, yeah.
1 week. So 1 week is when we then agreed to do that. And so, we're now about 800 tickets sold. And that's...
Man. Show day. I think it was a Saturday, I believe.
Yes.
And everything I was involved in this, and I will go on the record and say I too was a part of your stress a lot, because the opening acts, we had a shack.
Yeah.
While the main event, they had the penthouse and the mansion and stuff like that. So we were like, nah, we ain't finna be crunched up in a 9x9 square foot space. Why? What's the name of them downstairs? With the penny bottles and all that stuff, and enjoying. And Eddie B was like, "I'm going back to Dallas. I done flew out here." I think a lot went wrong show day, and you were doing a lot of back and forth. What the heck was happening?
So, Eddie B was one of the artists that decided not to perform on that day because I think he didn't understand what was going on. He didn't understand how fucked up things were, because Eddie B is one of the last people we had to. I didn't even know he was even on the list. Mm-hmm. Because the list they gave to me, Eddie was not even on there. So it's like during the last days, I see somebody tag themselves and say, "Hey, I'll be performing at a Made in Africa, Made in Cameroon." And I look and I'm like, "You're not on the list." And I hit him and I'm like, "Hey," because that part I was like on my A game. I was like, nothing's going to pass my eye. And you tag, I'm going to see who it is. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, "Hey, what's going on?" Your brother hits me up and says, "No, he's actually performing." So I get in touch with his manager, and his manager is like, "Yeah, he's scheduled to perform." Mm-hmm. I'm like, "So who are you? What is happening?" And so we get on the phone, we talk, and I'm like, "Right, I didn't know this is happening, but just here in case I'm the person to talk to." The day of the show, what we found out was the Fillmore has a 45 person capacity backstage at all times. That means that the artist...
Yeah. I just want to put some context to it, because Eddie B saying, "I'm going back to Dallas, I'm not performing," cascaded into artists like me saying, "Me too, I'm not performing."
Yes.
And Tita said, "Me too, I'm not." So it was just like... so I just want to put some context to it.
So I get a message that the artists don't want to perform.
Yeah.
All the openers don't want to perform. And one of the guys on the team was like, "Fuck it, let them perform." Because we were not so much stressed, because this is the thing, right? When the opening acts were saying we're not performing, we got a message that the artists in the hotel said they're not performing. So
I didn't hear that part.
Yeah, that's internal.
Yeah.
And so we got a message that they said we're not performing, and I'm like, why are they not performing? They said they want certain things have to be met, and I'm like, this is not Cameroon. Are you guys gonna come and hold us last minute? Like, there are people in this hall, and we have to make this thing happen. And so something along it was like somebody leaked that information. I don't know if somebody leaked that information to somebody, and they were like, "Okay, this is because the main acts are not coming." Mm-hmm. The main acts are not coming, then we're also gonna come. And in my mind, I'm like, any of you who doesn't perform, just know that I'm gonna blacklist you. This is me saying to myself,
man,
straight up.
Yeah.
If you're gonna fuck up our careers, because this is not a game. And that people don't realize, it's like, this is not a game. It's real business, right? People's careers are in play. People's money are in play. And people have come this far without accepting not to get it to be paid to do this opening act stuff. You're not gonna come last minute and you'll be like, I'm not gonna pay for them because I've been disrespected. I'm like, I get what you're saying, but because I took Eddie B to the side and I said, I'm apologizing to you. I'm sorry that this happened, but I need you to the ego that you have right now. In this moment, I respect it, but please put it to the side, and in a few months, this will be history. He took a decision, a man's decision, and he decided he wanted to do what he wanted to do, and I really hope it works out for him.
Well, he's like, I hope it works out for him. Yeah,
I really hope, because he made a decision, and you can't really blame him. I mean, like, it's a lot of things that happened prior to us, so it's something that unfortunately I couldn't.
Yeah.
I did our best. So we had about 9 opening acts.
Yeah.
Plus 4 artists, main acts. No, 6 main acts. Just one person desisted.
Yeah.
Well, 2. Him and Naomi.
Yeah. Naomi was like, MIA. What the heck was up with that? Thank you for bringing that up.
Again,
she was supposed to be even one of the main acts, from my understanding.
A lot of conversations were happening prior to it. A lot of promises were made before we got on board. And so when we came on board and realized like a lot of those promises there was nothing tangible to it. So yeah, that's one of those promises that we made before we came on board that
weren't fulfilled, and she was like, I'm out.
It was like, wasn't fulfilled. And we already had enough stress that anyone that was like, I'm out, or like, all right.
Cool. See you later.
Less stress to handle.
How much money did you end up making? How much money did you walk away with? How much money did Mbanga walk away with? And the aftermath after the show, what was the meeting like with the original ideas people and the people that put money into it and all that? What was the aftermath, the falling out?
Let me say that everyone that put in money got paid. Every investor, sponsor, anyone.
How?
All of them. Because from the ticket sales. So everyone, so we had investors, we had people that borrowed us money. My best friend, I told my best friend, look, I need he was like, all right, cool, I'm going to send it to you. We got paid. People within the team put in money, hotels, because all those things had to come from our pocket. So we paid up all our immediate expenses. Everything on immediate expenses got paid. From a sense, we broke even, actually. Yeah, when I think about it, we broke even. Now it's all the extra, because originally the marketing was not paid. The moment we got into production, marketing had to be paid. So that's the one part that we didn't necessarily get paid because, I mean, we was already assumed that it wasn't going to be paid for. So every single thing got paid. If anything, we reduced the cost of it because we said, hey, this is how much was made. We can only give you this amount. And it's not in a way to cheat you or anything like that. This is really just what has been made. And yeah, we did that. I mean, these are people that we had direct contracts with. Of course, people appeared out of the blue and said, hey, I had this. And I'm like, no, you didn't have it with me. You had it with this person. You should go speak to the person. So yeah, we paid off all our immediate debts. That is the cool thing about thinking from a business mindset. Is like I got into this. It was an A plus B equation. I wanted to do this for the show. I could care less about. I love Magasco, I love Minx, and I love Stanley Eno, and I love Mr. Liu and all those people. But at that time, the role for me was to make sure that they have a good show, and the role for the investors was that they get their money back. As simple as that.
I got 2 more questions on this before I move to Coming to America Festival and some other things. After this event, I think you posted on Facebook and you said you vowed to never, ever work with Cameroonians again.
Yeah.
You still feel that way?
I vowed to never do the Made in Cameroon Festival again.
Oh, just that?
Yes. And I never did. Which
you would never?
This year. No, I'll never.
This year it failed. Terribly.
I don't know.
It failed.
I don't know what happened there. But I vowed to not do that kind of mistake again. Because it's different when like everyone that we worked with was peace. Everyone ended up being people we still work with today. The difference is when in the hopes when we get into a mode like that, we're all crunching. When the downfall comes and I wouldn't say this publicly, but if my contract is to say we would make 100% of everything each person does while they're in the States, I don't want to have to run behind you to enforce that. If you decide to want to be smart and hide things, you can do that. I'm not going to run behind you. The thing about it is, I look at it as like there's always more bread in this space. So that happened, and I was like, okay, I think you've gotten what you want, but I'm going to let you in that space, but I'm going to progress. I also didn't said I wasn't going to work with Cameroonian artists again because after the stress they gave us. But I also realized that the reason the stress is like I'm identifying the final issue. The root issue was that things were not properly communicated. Because if we had communicated properly and if things were done the right way, we wouldn't have been where we were. Because everyone was a professional.
Right.
And everyone did things they were not even supposed to do. Right. So, yeah, I love my Cameroonian people. I love my Cameroonian artists.
Just some people that's like, nah, I ain't working with you no more.
No. Yeah. I learned my lesson.
Yeah. You, I think, if I'm not mistaken, there's a documentary on Made in Cameroon Music Festival that you're working on, iSpaces, or you personally working on, that is in the works. Is that coming out?
Yeah. I think the reason that documentary has to come out is for history purposes. You know, when I don't know if when I was in Cameroon, I went to school in Secret. Shout out to all the Chessons. There's a lot of things we watch on the TV that were stuff done here. Like musicians that came to the States, did something amazing and they documented that story and you watched it back home and it gave you a sense of pride as to like, this is my culture, and knowing that my culture is respected in the States. It's very important that people back home see how their artists were received in the US and not just received in like any kind of way. Like that is history that has to be documented and stored, and in the next couple of years that...
When is that coming out?
We're still working on it.
Okay.
We're still working on it because it's one of those things where there's a lot of context that has to be, like, we really want to be able to tell stories, real stories. And just talk about how challenging it is to put together something. Yeah. And it's not even a story to bash anyone. It's just to say this happened despite all of this. So
yeah, man, is this the first time you really like telling this story?
Yeah.
Stuck in the podcast exclusive. Yeah. Let's talk about something that outside looking in, I was like, man, I want to be a part of that. They're coming to American Music Festival. That's sort of likes of Davido, Veggie Dream, Naza. Was Key Black here? Key Black.
Veggie Dream.
Yeah. I'm talking huge names. How different was that from what we just talked on?
Same thing. Same people. Same thing. Same people. We came into save. You know the word Captain Save a Hole.
Yeah.
That's what we end up being that for a lot of people. The only difference is same thing. When I come to think about it, same thing. The difference is it's still the same. The thing about it is like the artists still do what they have to do. The person putting it together, if they're not on their A game or they're not trying to do things the right way, they end up fucking up everyone, including the artist. Right? I remember that there was Davido nearly did not perform. It was one day to the event that he agreed to perform. Man. He was fluent.
Time out. Davido refused to perform one day to the event of Coming to America Music Festival.
Well, he nearly did not.
He was the one jumping the highest on stage.
Yes.
Having the most fun. So,
not that he like. Okay, let me just go back a little bit. The way it typically works in the industry is you pay a certain amount deposit, and the remaining is due before the person gets on stage. That's the industry standard. I think a lot of times promoters are really juggling a lot of different expenses that they try to push it as much as you can so that they wait for them. That money that comes in from the event to pay the artist. And I think artists understand that. Artists understand that it's a tough space, so they're more willing to do that. The only difference is, I think in that case, was things were promised to the Davido crew that were not accomplished. And so they were like, okay, because you haven't given us these things, we would not... You've breached your contract, pretty much. Because they were in breach of contract. And so since we're in breach of contract, we will not go ahead and do what we have to do. And so, thanks to MC Chaz, because we're both producing the event. We had to get all the managers from Davido crew, They came to IO Spaces, we met, and we spoke to them and said, hey, we get what you guys are saying, and we really want to make it work. And we came to an agreement, and the next day he showed up.
What would you say was the most successful, made in Cameroon or coming to American music?
Both were successful. Both were history. I mean, okay, think about in the DC region, the last time we saw that many artists on stage. Just think about the last festival. It's never happened.
It's never, yeah.
It's always one artist.
Yep.
It's Daju.
Burnout Boy or somebody.
Burnout Boy.
Yeah.
We never had 4 artists on stage, right? And so in the 2 times when the 2 biggest festivals have happened, we've been involved, and that went a long way to show that, like, and after that I realized, like, I'm not going to do one person events. Like, if it's not something 30,000, like 4,000 or 5,000 going upwards, I don't want to get involved, because that's a space that I think we're more comfortable in.
Yeah.
So both were equally successful in their own right. One was more centered to the Cameroonian population, and the other was more centered to the French speaking and also Afrobeat loving population.
Man, I feel like we're not doing enough justice to the amount of tea and work that you've been putting in out here, bro. Like, I'm saying, we need to come down to IO Spaces, right, and set up cameras and talk about this in depth.
I'm down. I think we deserve a part 2 to this, because and the reason I think it's important to talk about this is a lot of times people don't understand the complexity behind a lot of things that happen. They come for a good show and they leave and they're like, oh, this was dope. But in reality, a lot of things that happen that gives them a better understanding of the work that a lot of individuals in the DC region put in, and they get nothing for it.
Yeah.
Right. And it's not always financial. I don't think it always has to be financial. Now I think it has to be financial. In the past, it was the name and the street cred, and I think now it's like you put it in terms of hours worked. It's a lot of time you put in that you could be doing something else, right? The artists are getting paid, the venues are getting paid, the bands are getting paid, and I think it's time that everyone, regardless of their status, and that's why I don't like the whole term opening act, because it's like, when is the last time in the African space an opening act blew up? Never happened. In American space, it happens a lot. A lot of upcoming acts were opening acts for, like, it's a thing. You open act for Chris Brown or for any of these guys, and next thing you know, you become like you go on tour with them. But the African artists don't have the same mentality. It's like them or your crew. And so the opening acts come in as a waste, as a time filler,
right?
And the audience doesn't like that, and that's why we're like, you know what, we have to rethink that word, or we have to find a better way to just make sure when you're coming in, you understand that the opening acts are part of the show, and they should be respected in the same way as yours, because all these big artists were once smaller artists one day.
Yeah.
So I think it's up to, like, the organizers who put together these shows to make it. And I think I have a few ways to go about doing that. And please, I want to.
Yeah, man. Listen, I'm saying we got to come down.
Okay.
And you have a conversation with you in your space. Maybe have even part 3 or in the part 2. Have, I don't know, Kimbo and the DJs, whoever.
Let's have. I'm down to having a whole panel. Everybody.
Yes. You got enough space and you got enough bandwidth to
talk. Let's talk. I've been thinking about this. A lot of them who involved in me in Cameroon, also involved in Coming to America, and also involved in a lot of different things.
Yes,
so
I'm saying let's do it, man.
Okay.
But I know the hours, burning, and we got to wrap this up.
Sure.
But what's the day in your life look like, Leslie?
It depends how I'm feeling.
In what way?
Like, days I wake up and I don't want to wake up from bed. Yeah, real talk, because it's just like it's a lot. More recently now, because we're having so much happening every weekend, I don't really get time to sleep and to take a break. So I find myself doing 2 mistakes: promising things that I'm going to do and I don't do them, or promising times and I don't respect them. Because in my mind, I'm like, I'm going to be there, but my schedule is like, you're lying. Like, I have 3 things for you, and then this last thing is going to take you a much longer time than. So my days are like typically meetings, events, administrative work, and then meeting with cool people like yourself. So that's it, Monday through Saturday.
You say you went to Boston College?
No,
I mean University of Ohio or something.
No, I went to Franklin University.
Yes, you got
Columbus.
siblings?
No, I don't.
What did you move? Where did you move when you first came to this country?
Boston, then Ohio.
What's your favorite color?
Blue.
Is your DMs open?
DMs in my they're open.
You searching single and searching?
Yeah, I was trying to figure out what you mean by DMs.
You single and searching?
I'm not searching. I'm definitely not searching.
A successful entrepreneur like you not searching.
I'm not searching.
Ladies, the DMs just open though. Hit them up. Hit them up. What's your favorite? I know you ask this. You ask people this question a lot.
Yeah.
Who has the best jollof out here?
Cameroon.
Are you just saying that?
Cameroon has the best jollof. The beautiful thing about Cameroonian food is the diversity in Cameroonian food. Like you can eat jollof, ndole, koki, eru, you can eat about 100, like 10 meals from the same country that have nothing to do with rice. You can do the same thing with Nigeria or Ghana. Everything they do, they say rice something there. This and rice. No. You can eat something in Cameroonian food, it has nothing to do with fufu or rice. Plantains, like it's so Cameroonian jollof is, but unfortunately we haven't had people who represent us well in these competitions that we do. So I think
there was some pacha in this last one you did it.
It was I was hoping that we are gonna win this thing. But that Nigerian guy came with, he had jollof with,
I think it was handed to the winner.
No, he had jollof with lamb chops. I've never seen jollof with lamb chops. Like the chops were the chops were in, I saw the pin, I was like, all I saw was lamb chops.
Yeah.
He put it in, he braised it, was shining a little bit. You couldn't even care about the jollof. That's what made him win. I was like, okay, next thing we have to do, probably put like elephant ears.
And that Cameroon jollof make us win.
Yeah.
What are you most curious about right now, Leslie?
Reinventing myself. Constantly trying to figure out exactly what's next.
In what way?
Just making sure that I'm always thinking different and looking out for those new ideas, those new things that keep me on the edge. And my company.
What's your advice for an entrepreneur right now? Somebody, say just looking to start or, I don't know, just, stuck in life. What's your advice for them? Or in business, in a place in business right now, it's like, dang, I'm about to fail.
Okay, it depends on where they are financially or where they are mentally. There's certain entrepreneurs that haven't yet gone through the failure stage, and those ones are very hard to convince or talk to because they think they got everything. To entrepreneurs who haven't gone through that stage, it's really important that they self-start, they go through the process of starting and failing, all these hardships of entrepreneurship, and then when they've gone through that, they're in a much better position to appreciate the fact that you want to focus on things like the money initially. Focus on making revenue. Focus on recurring revenue, annual revenue, things that keep the business alive. Press, media, all that good stuff, interviews, pitches, sounds good in theory, but you put so much work into them that it might be a little difficult for you to win on that. So if you want to focus on revenue, want to focus on building a great team, it might be a little challenging for a starter, but getting a co-founder might be one. And the last one I would say is join a community like IO Spaces, where you meet other entrepreneurs like yourself that are getting started or who are a little bit along the line that could give you some really good advice.
What makes IO Spaces different from every other co-working space out there, not just in the DMV, but nationwide?
IO Spaces has the highest concentration of innovative Africans in the DC region period. Like when it comes to innovation and Africans, anything that has to do with that space, whether it be music, tech, food, most likely they have passed through IO Spaces or they have been there. So there's a high chance that by association, you might find somebody who is as dope as you, who is as dope as someone you want to be, and you have the ability to speak to them without having to book them, pay them a fee to speak to them. I think that's what makes the power of the space. It's like the community of people. And also our location, I think the building which we're in right now really positions us in a space where you can really, it's accessible, metro accessible, bus accessible, Uber accessible. So yeah.
I got 3 last questions for you.
Sure.
You mentioned, you're constantly trying to reinvent yourself. I need you to drop an exclusive right now. What's next for you in the pipeline? Like, what are you working on right now?
Two, what am I working on right now? Three things. Tomorrow we have Avdes.
We didn't even touch on that, man. Yeah.
It's okay. It's so much.
Yeah.
We have Avdes tomorrow. It's an African Entrepreneurship Diaspora Summit. A lot of amazing entrepreneurs in the region from all across the board. The keynote is by the AU ambassador to the US, Dr. Arikana. Next is we have a festival coming up called the Fast Fest, October 18th. It's a all independent musicians, highlighting just independent artists. Because I think that's my solution, is to be able to highlight those artists and put them in a place where constantly you're hearing from them, you're seeing them perform live, and it's easier for them to build up a much bigger fan base. And then lastly, we're planning a TEDx Silver Spring sometime in winter, early spring next year. So yeah, those are the three things.
Man, when this is all said and done, how does Leslie want you to be remembered?
That I created, or not even that people that came through the space were able to, in a way, change their lives in the bigger scope. Like, let it be through business, let it be through personal, let it be through entertainment. And then we made a mark in the US. Like, it's a name, it becomes a household name. Not me, my company. I'm not huge on like putting my name out there. I like when the company is, because it's the attention is not needed. But that at the end of the day, that Africans in the US have equal opportunities like every other community. Because I think Asians, Indians have access to so many things that Africans are still, we're getting there. And so I want to be part of people that contribute to that part as well.
How can people reach you, man? I got tons of questions. Like, listen, you're like an onion. You're so many layers. I want to talk about collaborating. I want to talk about so many things. Made in Africa experience, I think.
Yes.
That you just had. It's just so many. But how can people reach you? Whether they need mentorship, whether they just need advice, whether they just want to learn about IO spaces, how can people get in contact with you?
So best way is IG. I'm at Tita Leslie, one word. Twitter, Leslie Tita, and email Leslie at iospaces.com. Those are the best ways to reach me. In terms of mentorship and advice, I don't typically do that because the amount of time you need to do that. However, we have programs that enable, because we're a team, right? And I think there's a lot of ways that we can support you that doesn't require me to be there personally. And I think that even if I cannot be there to answer the questions that people want to ask, I definitely know a person that could definitely help with that solution as well. So reach out, ask, and I could definitely guide the person the right way.
iospaces.com is the name of the website. I had the privilege of speaking with Tita Leslie, the co-founder. This man is a legend out here. Like I said, part 2 of this coming through. We're gonna get into some things.
Yeah.
Definitely appreciate you coming through, but I'm glad we made this happen. And yeah, man.
Thank you.
Listen, if you are watching this on YouTube and you enjoy what you've seen and heard, if you're listening to this on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, hit subscribe, do screenshots, send the links to your social media networks, send it to your ex, send it to everybody and your mama and them. SitM Podcast.com is the name of the website. Read the blog, shop merch. Shout out to Perfect Office Solution for sponsoring this podcast. I'm Flex, Leslie in the building, Mind the building. Shout out to AK and Alex, and we are out.